right, so hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into, uh, is Walmart stock right for your portfolio?
Yeah, it's a really good question.
Yeah, I think it's something a lot of people are thinking about. And, to get to the bottom of that, we're going to have to take a look at their financials, kind of what they're doing, and really analyze, is it a buy, is it a hold, or is it a pass?
It's fascinating, right? Like Walmart, a company that many just see as a big box store. They're always evolving. They're always, making moves. So we got to look at their financials, market share, the innovation, and even their economic impact.
Yeah, and it's like 2024. Walmart's playing a whole new ballgame now. They're not just competing on price anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they're making some pretty massive investments
Hmm.
in technology and customer experience. Remember that billion-dollar store makeover they announced?
Yeah.
Wider aisles, upgraded pharmacies. Gets a whole new vibe when you walk in there.
Totally. Exactly. And they're clearly trying to elevate that in-store experience. They want to keep up with those online giants, the Amazons of the world. But to understand if that's actually paying off, we need to take a look at their financial performance.
Okay, so let's talk numbers. When we were looking at Morningstar's analysis, something interesting popped up. They describe Walmart as a wide moat company.
Hmm.
I know that sounds a little bit like a medieval fantasy novel, but what does it actually mean? Like, what does it mean for investors?
Think of it this way. A wide moat protects a castle, right, from invaders. Well, in the business world, a wide moat basically means that Walmart has these strong defenses against competition. So things like their massive size, their incredibly low prices, and their super efficient supply chain. Those things make it really tough for other companies to kind of come in and steal their customers.
So it's like they built this fortress, right, of efficiency and value that's really hard to break through. No wonder most analysts rate WMT as a strong buy. But, and this is a question I'm sure a lot of people have. When something's a strong buy, usually comes with a pretty high price tag.
Right.
I've noticed the stock is trading at a little bit of a premium. Is that a red flag or is that to be expected?
That's the million-dollar question, right? You hit the nail on the head. It's true, Walmart has consistently beat those earnings and sales estimates, which is great for investors who really like that predictability. But that high price doesn't always mean that it's a bad investment.
Right.
So we need to figure out, does the current price actually reflect the company's future growth?
Okay, so let's talk about growth then. Where is Walmart headed? They're already massive, right?
Oh, yeah.
12th most valuable company globally, over $743 billion market cap. Can they really keep growing from there?
Well, they're definitely making moves to stay on top. Remember that 3-for-1 stock split they did earlier this year?
Yeah.
So by splitting each share into 3, they made it much more affordable, especially for those smaller investors. And that could attract a whole new wave of buyers that could boost demand and potentially push the price even higher.
That's a pretty smart strategy, especially if you consider, analysts are saying that they think Walmart's actually going to gain even more market share.
Yeah.
Their scale and their investments in digital are being looked at as huge advantages in this space.
Yeah.
But speaking of digital, let's kind of shift gears a little bit and dive into what they're doing in terms of their innovation pipeline. What are they cooking up in the Walmart Tech Lab?
Some really interesting stuff. Way beyond just low prices now. They're diving headfirst into artificial intelligence, smart shopping carts, and even 2D barcodes, all with the goal of kind of revolutionizing how we think about shopping.
Okay, but break it down for me a little bit. What are they using AI for? Is this like robots roaming the aisles, scanning shelves?
Not quite robots yet, but close. So they're using AI to improve, well, pretty much everything, from voice ordering to the way they manage their supply chain.
Yeah.
But even creating these personalized shopping experiences. Think about this. You walk into Walmart and the store is actually recommending you products based on what you've bought in the past. Maybe even your dietary needs.
Okay, so it's a little creepy, a little cool.
Yeah.
What about these smart carts I've been hearing about? Are those going to replace cashiers altogether?
That is the question, right? So they're already running pilot programs. They've got these smart carts out there. They're designed to streamline checkout, track your purchases, and even help you navigate the store. Some even have built-in scales for weighing produce.
Wow.
It's really interesting. It's a direct challenge to companies like Instacart and Amazon, who are also trying to dominate that online grocery space.
So they're really playing offense, not defense. I like it. Okay, what about these 2D barcodes? Those sound pretty futuristic. What are those all about?
So this is where Walmart could really become an industry leader. These 2D barcodes hold way more information than your traditional barcodes, and that means faster recalls if there's like a safety issue. They can offer super targeted discounts to specific customers, and they're able to gather a lot more data about consumers.
And data is king these days, right? But, all this innovation kind of begs the question, will this actually translate into bigger profits for
That's
investors?
what we got to analyze, right? Are these innovations just flashy gimmicks, or are they actually game changers that are going to drive that long-term growth and revenue?
Okay, so they're not just sitting on their massive pile of cash, they're investing it back in the future of the company.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, Walmart's more than just retail. They've got a whole services business that's growing pretty rapidly.
Yeah, this is a really crucial part of their strategy. They want to diversify beyond just groceries and gadgets, right? They offer financial services, things like the Walmart Money Card. They have health and wellness options through their pharmacy, their vision centers. They even have home and tech services like protection plans and installations.
And don't forget Walmart Plus War, which is, the membership that bundles delivery, streaming, even fuel discounts.
Right.
But are all these services actually bringing in the big bucks? Like, are they successful?
That's a big question for investors. Some analysts are saying they think these services could really drive significant growth over the next few years. But we need to dig deeper, right? We need to see, are they truly adding to Walmart's value proposition for investors?
It's pretty incredible how many things Walmart's involved in these days. But it's not just about their profits, right? They're so big that their actions kind of have this ripple effect across the entire economy.
Absolutely. Their decisions can impact, well, everything, from wages to the prices that we all pay for everyday goods.
I mean, for example, when they decided to raise store manager salaries to an average of $128,000, that sends shockwaves through the entire retail industry. Other companies had to raise their pay scales just to stay competitive.
Yeah, it's a great example of how their size gives them this enormous influence. But it's not always positive, right? Some people criticize them. They say that their low prices actually squeeze smaller businesses, sometimes even driving them out of the market.
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Their dominance means low prices for consumers, but it can also potentially be at the expense of those smaller competitors. It's pretty complex.
Very complex, yeah. And something investors need to really be aware of when they're thinking about the long-term sustainability of Walmart's business model.
Okay, so we've seen the good, we've seen the bad, we've seen the enormous. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. What are the pros and cons of actually adding Walmart to your portfolio?
So on the positive side, you've got a company with a really rock-solid track record in terms of financial performance. They're always innovating, they're diversifying their revenue streams, and they're just a dominant force in the market.
Those are pretty attractive qualities to any investor.
Absolutely.
But what about the downsides? You mentioned the stock's trading at a premium. There are these economic and labor concerns that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Is that enough to kind of scare some investors away?
I think it depends. It depends on your individual investment goals, your risk tolerance. Some investors might be perfectly comfortable with that premium price, especially given Walmart's history of exceeding expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Others might be a bit more cautious, especially considering we might be headed for some economic headwinds. And then, of course, there's that ongoing debate about their labor practices.
So it's not like a guaranteed home run. Investors really need to do their research. They need to decide if those potential rewards outweigh the risks.
You got it. There's no one-size-fits-all answer in investing, right?
Well said. Now let's talk about Walmart's dividend policy. A lot of investors, they're attracted to WMT because it's considered, a dividend aristocrat.
Right.
What does that even mean?
It means they have this really long and consistent history of paying dividends to shareholders. In fact, they've actually increased their dividend payout every year for decades.
Wow.
It's a pretty impressive track record.
So even if the stock price doesn't go, through the roof, investors are still getting those regular dividend checks.
Precisely. It's a way to generate passive income, participate in Walmart's financial success.
Yeah, that's appealing, especially for income-focused investors. Now, what about share buybacks? I know Walmart has been pretty actively buying back its own stock. Why would a company do that?
Well, there's a few reasons. One is they may believe that their stock is actually undervalued. So by buying back shares, they're reducing the number of shares that are out there, which can increase the value of each remaining share.
So it's like they're saying, hey, we believe in our company so much, we're going to invest in ourselves.
Exactly. It's a way to return value to shareholders and potentially boost those earnings per share.
It's interesting. They're using, multiple strategies to try to reward those investors. But let's not forget about the big picture. ESG investing has become a really major trend. How does Walmart stack up when it comes to, those environmental, social, and governance factors.
It's a little bit of a mixed bag, to be honest.
Okay.
On the one hand, they've made some really significant progress in reducing their environmental impact, you know, promoting sustainability. They've set these ambitious goals for reducing emissions and waste, and they're investing in renewable energy sources.
That's great to hear. What about the S and the G, the social and governance issues?
And so, they've gotten some recognition for their efforts to promote diversity and inclusion in their workforce. And they've also got these programs to support local communities, and they try to follow ethical sourcing practices.
But they've also, and I think we have to talk about this, they've also faced a lot of criticism for their labor practices and the impact they have on, those smaller businesses.
Yes, definitely. That's the other side of the coin. They've been criticized for things like paying low wages, offering limited benefits, and putting pressure on those small retailers who just can't compete with their low prices.
So it's complicated. Like most things Walmart. They're making progress in some areas, but they clearly still have work to do in others.
Absolutely. And for investors who really prioritize those ESG factors, it's so important to weigh these things carefully.
Yeah. All right, so we've looked at Walmart's financial performance, their innovation pipeline, their services business, their economic impact, their ESG track record. We've covered a lot of ground.
It's been a comprehensive deep dive, but this is just the beginning, right? People need to do their own research, read analyst reports, and really stay up to date on what's going on.
Absolutely. And you've given our listeners a lot to think about. But before we wrap up, I have one last question. We talked about their moving to healthcare with those telehealth acquisitions. Do you think that could be their next big growth area?
It's a really good question, and it's definitely a space to watch. I mean, the healthcare market is enormous. It's growing rapidly. Walmart is very well positioned to tap into that demand.
Imagine one-stop shopping for groceries, clothes, electronics, and your healthcare. It's a bold vision, but could it be realistic?
Only time will tell. One thing is certain, Walmart is not afraid to disrupt industries and push the boundaries. They're always evolving, and they're always adapting to the changing market.
And that's why they remain such a fascinating company to watch, both for consumers and investors.
Absolutely. Love them or hate them, you can't deny their impact.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive into Walmart, the question remains, is WMT right for your portfolio? We've given you the tools and insights. Now it's up to you to decide.
Remember, investing involves risk, and past performance doesn't guarantee future results.
Very true.
Do your due diligence, think about your investment goals, and make informed decisions.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to stay up to date on all the latest trends and insights of the world of investing, make sure you subscribe to The Deep Dive.
We have tons of these deep dives coming your way. We'll be exploring everything from cutting-edge technology to the future of food.
It's a wild world out there.
Join our community of curious minds. Never miss an episode. We're your guides on this journey of discovery.
Buckle up, because there are some serious knowledge drops coming your way. It's amazing how many things Walmart is involved in these days, but it's not just about their profits, right? I mean, they're so big, their actions really do have this ripple effect across the entire economy.
Absolutely. Yeah, their decisions can impact, everything from wages to the prices we all pay for everyday goods.
I mean, just as an example, when they decided to raise their store manager salaries to an average of $128,000, that sent shockwaves through the whole retail industry.
Yeah.
Other companies had to scramble to raise their pay scales just to try to stay competitive.
Yeah, it's a great example of how just their sheer size gives them this incredible influence, but it's not always positive, right? Some critics say that their low prices can really squeeze smaller businesses and sometimes even, push them out of the market.
Yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Their dominance means low prices for consumers, but it can also potentially be at the expense of those smaller competitors. It's complicated.
It's very complex. Yeah, it's definitely something investors need to be aware of, when they're thinking about the long-term sustainability of Walmart's business model.
Okay, so we've seen the good, the bad, and the enormous. Get down to brass tacks here. What are the pros and cons of actually adding Walmart to your portfolio?
All right, so on the plus side, you've got a company with a really strong track record of, financial performance. They're always innovating, they're diversifying those revenue streams, and like we said, they're just a dominant force in the market.
Those are pretty attractive qualities to any investor.
Absolutely.
But what about the downsides? You mentioned the stock's trading at a premium, and there are those economic and labor concerns we've talked about. Is that enough to kind of scare some investors away?
I think it really depends. It comes down to your individual goals as an investor and your risk tolerance. Some investors might be completely fine with that premium price, especially given Walmart's history of exceeding expectations.
Mm.
Others might be a little more cautious, especially with the possibility of, economic headwinds. And then there's the ongoing debate about, their labor practices.
So it's not, an automatic slam dunk. Investors need to do their research and decide for themselves.
Hmm.
Do those potential rewards outweigh the risks?
Exactly. There's no one size fits all in investing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well said. Now let's talk about their dividend policy.
Yeah.
A lot of investors are attracted to WMT because it's what they call a dividend aristocrat.
Right.
What does that even mean?
So that basically means they have a very long and consistent history of paying dividends to shareholders. In fact, they've increased that dividend payout every year for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive track record.
But even if the stock price doesn't, go through the roof, investors are still getting those regular checks.
Exactly. It's a way to generate some passive income and participate in Walmart's success.
Yeah, that's appealing, especially for those income-focused investors. Now, what about share buybacks? I know that Walmart has been pretty actively buying back its own stock. Why would a company do that?
Well, there's a couple reasons. One is they might actually believe that their stock is undervalued. And so by buying back shares, they reduce the number that are out there, which can increase the value of each of the remaining shares.
So it's kind of like they're saying, hey, we think our company is so great, we're going to invest in ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to give back value to the shareholders and potentially boost those earnings per share.
Interesting. So they're using multiple strategies to try to reward those investors. But let's not forget about the bigger picture here. ESG investing has become a really major trend. How does Walmart measure up when it comes to, environmental, social, and those governance factors?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag, to be honest.
Okay.
On the one hand, they've made some big progress when it comes to reducing their environmental impact, promoting sustainability. They've set these really ambitious goals to reduce emissions and waste, and they're putting money into renewable energy.
That's good to hear. What about the S and the G, the social and governance issues?
So they have gotten some recognition for their efforts to promote diversity and inclusion within their workforce. And they've also implemented some programs to try to support local communities and, make sure they're using ethical sourcing practices.
They've also, and I think it's important to talk about this, they've also gotten a lot of criticism for, their labor practices and their impact on smaller businesses.
Right. Yeah, that's the other side of it. They've been criticized for things like paying low wages, not offering great benefits, and putting pressure on those small retailers who are really struggling to compete with those low prices.
So it's complicated, like most things. Walmart, they're making some progress in certain areas, but clearly they still have work to do in others.
Absolutely. And for investors who are really focused on those ESG factors, it's super important to weigh those things carefully when they're considering Walmart.
Yeah, all right. So we've taken a look at Walmart's financial performance, their innovation pipeline, their services business, their economic impact, and even their ESG track record. It's a lot to take in.
It's been a pretty comprehensive deep dive for sure, but this is just the start. People need to do their own research, read those analyst reports, and really stay updated on what's happening.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, right? Exploring all the different facets of Walmart.
Oh, yeah, for sure. From their financials to those big tech ambitions and even their impact on the economy, those ESG questions, it's clear Walmart's a company that gets people talking.
And that's what we love about these deep dives, giving you all the info so you can form your own opinions, make those smart investment choices.
Right, because ultimately it's your portfolio. It's your decision.
Exactly. We can arm you with the knowledge, but then it's up to you to put it to work. So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with, maybe one last thought-provoking question, something to kind of ponder, as you think about whether WMT belongs in your strategy or not.
Okay, I like it.
Here it is. Could Walmart's aggressive push into technology, all that AI stuff, those futuristic smart carts, could that be what really helps them fend off the competition, the Amazons of the world, and maybe even cement their dominance for another decade?
That's the question, isn't it?
And if so, what would that mean for investors, for people like you listening right now?
That's something I really encourage everyone to explore, do some more digging.
Because investing, it's all about asking the right questions. It's about digging deeper, never settling for just the surface level.
Couldn't agree more. That's what the deep dive's all about.
So keep those minds curious, keep exploring, and keep investing wisely.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Walmart.
Until next time, happy investing, everyone.